Peace, everybody. This is Julian, the Wholesome Life Coach, and I wanted to talk about work life balance, something that I wrote about in my book, Thriving Through Chaos. Basically, my own experience. And it's essentially this challenge that we all have, especially as women, single, married, mother, um, no children, with juggling, having a juggling work or career and the rest of our lives. And one of the things that I've heard said is that we can um, we can do one thing at a time, which is perfectly normal, and that's actually fantastic advice. Um, the thing is that when we're in survival mode, as I found and I've seen with colleagues and so on around me, is that you can get bogged down in doing one thing because you're under so much stress that, at least for me, that moving on to the next thing is not really working out like you would like to. So for me, I ended up, um, I moved into a work situation that kind of started out fine. It started out like it was going to be less stressful than what I experienced in the past, but it very quickly got to the point where I was spending longer and longer hours at work, and to the point where I left, basically quit cold turkey. And during the during the process of being out of that environment, I did work on myself, which led me to understand that, um, led me to some inner standing. Some I did spiritual work on myself, and I learned some things about the spiritual process, including the fact that we are not here alone. We have a whole team, basically supernatural beings, who are with us to help us once we understand that and we ask for the help. So, what I learned is that what I realized through the learning or remembering that process that I went through is that I can tap into this team, this spirit team, for help when things seem chaotic, especially in terms of career or work, the work process. So, what I learned to do is, when I encounter, when schedule seems to be getting tight, um, and even when I was in the chaos, I used to kind of do it without even realizing what I was doing. So sometimes I would have back to back assignments. I'd be in court today, then have to go back to the office to prepare for a deposition the next day, after doing a deposition the day before. And it was just exhausting and very stressful. And sometimes I would be thinking, I just wish, or um, I want this assignment that's coming up tomorrow to be adjourned or something, just so that I can get some rest. And lo and behold, without being that intentional about it, because I didn't really compute what I was doing, because nothing is really a coincidence, I would end up having that time given back to me in the form of not having to do the next day's assignment. The next day might be adjourned, or maybe it wouldn't have to happen because the case settled or something. So that has turned out to be having that support, supernatural support, for want of a better way of saying it, is priceless. So if you're out here and you consider yourself a spiritual person and you understand that you have a spirit team that you can tap into, that's one way you can um, tap into your spirit team, actively tap in when work gets stressful, or when, or not even work, could be life in general, things start to become chaotic. You can call in your help, and you will get the help. Um, and so that is, and I learned that because left my job in 2020. Wasn't planning on going back, but I ended up having to go back, and PTSD showed up in a really big way because I was resistant, even though the message was that I have to go back in. I was highly resistant to it, and um, I had PTSD from previous experiences. Because I had been resistant to it back then, I knew that that ultimately is not where I am supposed to be. Um, so didn't want to be there back then, and then having to go back in, it was puzzling. Um, and so I went back in severe PTSD, and I had to meditate on it and come to the realization that that's where I had to be. So then a couple of things had happened that I wasn't, that were triggering. And the last thing that happened that was triggering, um, I had to I realized I had to, in the process, that I had to reframe the experience in order to deal with it going forward. Because once I got the really got the message that this is what I have to do, this is what I signed up for, um, I had to figure out a way to deal with it. And it clicked that reframing the experiences is what is necessary. So, what I had to understand is that this experience or recurring this loop that was happening where the same kind of experience at work would pop up and trigger me. I had to understand that or understand that it's a it's showing me, preparing me for what the work that I have to do on my soul's mission. So it's reframing it helped me to get past the resistance to being there again, and put me back in flow to where I no longer have the knot in my stomach. I'm no longer stressed out. I'm no longer resistant to it, because I know that, well, after a while on this journey, this spiritual path, you start to realize that, or I have started to realize that nothing that happens is a coincidence. Everything is leading to something else, and all of the experiences we have, um, work, career, job, whatever, uh, is they're leading someplace. That's not to say that there isn't this strong feeling that you have to get out of here. Have like happened to me. I gotta leave, and ultimately I left. I had to leave for my health. The thing about that is the leaving process has to be well thought out. People usually say, make sure you have something else lined up before you take that step. But I think that what it should be, or in addition to that, what we need to be aware of is that if you're leaving a job, a relationship, any kind of situation where you are, or where we are, at least for me, where I am resistant to the process, the job, the career, the relationship, the whatever it is that you're leaving, like, I gotta go, I can't deal with this anymore. Um, it, it ends up becoming a loop if there are things about that situation that's left behind that haven't been dealt with. So apparently, I had to go back to that job because there were things that I needed to remember about myself, and I needed to release the resistance to being in that situation, because I needed to release resistance in other aspects of my life. And the process of releasing resistance to that, to being in a 3D job, has helped me to understand the process of releasing resistance and why we need to release resistance. It's not about being callous and lackadaisical and and uncaring, um, because that's not what happens. Uh, Ultimately, it's about loving yourself, loving everybody else. It's a little tricky to explain at this point, but so this is why probably we end up being in loops, like dating the same person with a different face over and over again, or having the same work experiences, even though we might move from one job to a different job, uh, is because we haven't gotten the understanding of why we're there in the first place. Because, like I said, nothing on this spiritual path, once we realize that that's what we're here for, is a coincidence. Everything is a step leading to another step leading to another step, and it's all part of the process. No matter how, none of it's not good or bad, it just is. um and so, to avoid the looping in and out of the same kind of scenario over and over again, what we do is learn to release resistance to it. And that's also where reframing comes in and is very important. So that's what I wanted to say. And I truly hope that this is helpful for somebody. Have a peaceful night, and see you next time. Thanks.